It's 2000. The new millennium just broke and everybody is optimistic about the future ahead, especially in the anime market. But I'm sure that Kyoto Video already did a topic on handmade made for that duration talking about it during the time, but allow me to reiterate anyway. The OVA market went out with a bang with Fooly Cooly, Kazuya Tsurumaki's magnum opus, and a perfect way to introduce a new generation of animators to prove to the world what they're capable of. So what does this have to do with today's video? Simple. In 2011, Toei saw that and wanted it for themselves, so they assaulted Banpisto and BAM! Kyousougiga. This is not Fooly Cooly, and therefore should not be associated with such. And yet it is. Okay, on a serious tangent. This series is gorgeous to look at. It's about an artist who creates different paintings that come to life. One day, he meets this girl and the two start a wonderful family through their drawings, only for the Japanese government to intervene, so he steps right into the painting, a mirror image of Kyoto if you will. This embodies the work of Izumi Todo, a pen name for Toei's writing staff who helped create Ojomojo Doremi, and even today with the Precure franchise. Wink, wink, wink! Oh yeah, that reminds me. Pretty Cure is a franchise that I wanted to like. The series is directed by Rie Matsumoto, who worked on the franchise, and would later go on to direct Blood Blockade Battlefront for Bones in 2016, just 3 years later after the TV series landed. This series was always a bucket list for me, but I never really got the time getting my hands on it until a lucky sale on Mercari got me a hold of this gem for only $30, featuring 6 ONA titles and 10 episodes of the show. Unless you count episode 0 as an episode of the show. Otherwise, it would just put you at like 11. But we're here to tackle the initial internet episodes that made the series for me. Starting with... Here's the big ticket question. How do you introduce your characters to the show? How about... 4 minutes worth of pure Sakuga moments to introduce the richly developed world! And for rising talents, might I add. And even some old-timers from Toei's past, such as Tetsuya Saeki and Naoki Tate. More on the latter in just a bit. And underneath all that Sakuga, the story about a family dealing with strange occurrences in the mirrored version of Kyoto. The story mostly centers on our main protagonist, Koto, voiced by Rie Kugimiya, who I only know her for her performance as Happy in Fairy Tail. She's a carefree girl in search of a black rabbit in order to return home to her familiars while searching for clues to reunite with her family. All while wielding the Aratama, a giant hammer to take down certain threats if one should intensify fast. She soon draws connections to a weird place ruled by a monk, a demon, and a priest. She basically sticks out from other protagonists for the most part, and is quite a vibe to watch on screen. She's no Haruko Haruhama, but she has enough energy to keep me engaged whenever there needs to be endless optimism, even if she gets caught in the wind sometimes. It also helps that I'm a sucker for female protagonists. Who knows if I'll get Crossbuster going? Her brothers are A and Un, who don't get as much screen time as she does, but we do know their names meaning the beginning and end respectively. Basically, they're chibi middle school students with the ability to transform into red and blue monsters who can fly and possess supernatural strength. Moe's the monk, a grump, Yasa's the Oni, and Professor Soko is the brains of the Bashamaru, the giant who controls her mafia. You can honestly tell there's a strong connection amongst the group and their experiences in the mirror world of Kyoto. We'll get to all those in the individual episodes as the series goes on. The problem is with this episode, the plot takes a back seat to all the pretty visuals going on in the episode. To her credit, this was Rie Matsumoto's early experience with the projects, at least in the director's chair. But again, this was pretty much an ONA series. Oh, speaking of which, think of these as videos uploaded onto the internet, similar to the vein of today's indie animated shows like Ramshackle or God forbid, Battle for Dream Island. And Crossbuster if that ever gets off the ground. There is one character I forgot to mention in all this, with Lady Koto, the Black Rabbit, making a quick appearance near the end, after a giant sequence done by Naoki Tate of Toei fame. Now Tate has experience with animation in the past, mostly on his work on Dragon Ball and such, as well as other projects such as the Digimon franchise sometimes. But anyway, Lady Koto was one of Mio's original drawings who fell in love and accepted the offer of becoming the female Bodhisattva. Yeah, I fucked up the name, haven't I? Soon confined to a desolate moon due to how she's unable to sustain her presence anywhere else, after her daughter Koto inherits all of her powers. Another minor issue is the ending, which I fully understand the intent of, but it just feels a little shoehorned for my liking. And if we're talking about comparing this to the series, then I can safely mark this entire episode as mixed canon. No, I am not offering any questions. I'd have a lot more to say, but again, the plot takes a back row seat to the visuals, so if you're able to turn off your brain and witness the chaos, go for it. Otherwise, you would need to pay extra attention to even get the full story, and even that takes some work. let's just get to the 5 episodes already. In this episode, we get a closer insight on Koto, the daughter to Lady Koto, and more specifically, her experience with her instructor, Inari. Myoe travels to the dimension after saying goodbye to Koto, as she is taken in by an instructor to train after inheriting Lady Koto's powers. Hence why Lady Koto's on the moon, not to be confused with our protagonist, Koto, of the Looking Glass City.
Get the idea? Okay, nice.
It's such a fantastic episode to look at, and Inari's interactions with Koto are simply something to behold, reminding one of family at times. It also proudly highlights some of Koto's ambitions on finding her mother someday.
私、ママを探しに行きたい。会って話がしたいの。美人だといいな。きっと驚くよね。
I'd have a lot more to speak of, but if I'm telling the truth, if each episode is only 7 to 12 minutes long, it really gives me very little to work with. But for an episode packed under 10 minutes, this is fantastic. Oh, speaking of which...
何がないんですか？
リモコンに決まってんでしょ。
This is a pretty fun episode in my opinion. Just a simple story about Professor Shoko trying to search for a tablet to control a Gigantor-inspired mech. The interactions? Beautiful. The side characters? Definitely something to behold. And the henchman just gives off a lot of Miyazaki energy with the movements. I'm surprised they didn't do this kind of thing sooner, besides Space Pirate Mito. It also has the gall to admit that Shoku's a bit of a brat when it comes to science, stopping at nothing until she gets what she wants.
私のリモコンはどこ？しらばっくれんじゃないわよ。
It's another fantastic episode, but it bears repeating and grinding into dust. But again, this is only 7 minutes long, so I'm surprised they didn't have more to mention. All it does is make me hopeful for reviewing the TV series because it's seen as a spiritual remake to the ONA series, in which the episodes are far more fleshed out around that time.
便利なものね。
Yase is a demon. That's the episode. Okay, I was joking on that end. The episode takes shape where a yearly festival is televised where unneeded objects mysteriously float away, much to Yase's amusement. Also a side plot where Koto and the twins try to stop a young girl from being swept away with them after they refuse to give up her plush rabbit. The staging in this episode is wonderful. I don't know who did the storyboards to this episode, but whoever did must have taken a real keen for such talent at making a festival larger than life to the audience. Not to mention, the episode is pretty much framed like a televised interview, in some areas which I really like. And despite Yase being the center of the episode, she mostly takes a back seat in the middle of a televised event in favor of seeing the townsfolk reaction to the event taking place, and a subsequent chase to save her child's life after she flies off with a stuffed rabbit.
Gee, what do you think was gonna happen?
Did you know that?
Everybody constantly considers Goku a bad father because 9 out of 10 they were only exposed to Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and thought of it as the official dub. There is a saying at the start of every episode of Abridged, where they were just merely fan-based parodies, and how you should purchase the official versions provided by Funimation, Toei Animation, Shueisha, and Akira Toriyama. It doesn't take much money to support the official release.
Now you know!
待っていてね、妙へ。
Okay, so the entire episode is centered on Myoe, the Buddhist monk that is watching over Koto and company. That's it. I'm sorry if this is not what you wanted to hear, but when you're only working with 7 to 12 minutes of content, that it just bears repeating itself to the audience. That's it. It's also one of the longest episodes thus far, clocking in at over 12.5 minutes, but barely has any resources to support all of this, as well as Myoe's ambitions that would be explained much better later in the TV series. Myoe's basically a bit of a grouch, but is still Koto's guardian at the end of the day, and the two have a very healthy relationship with each other, and you get to feel a connection between the father and daughter very nicely. It's just what makes this episode so special to me, but it's still the weakest episode in my eyes. Okay, last episode. This is the one where the original Moe and Koto start a family in the mountains. The entire thing is mostly silent and wonderfully paced at this, even if it's just a prettier music video you see before you. I won't continue on more details with the entire series because simply, it needs to be seen to be believed. Something like this can truly blossom from the hearts if allowed enough time to flourish. These days, it's hard to understand what makes a good story if you've never seen it before, and it could easily lead to overlooking the show if never given the chance to truly flourish. Even at its lows, I truly believe anime could be a wonderful source if given enough time to understand the context, from the animation to the story to how emotionally driven the characters could be on sheets of paper. It's capable of leaving a lasting impact if the road less traveled is worth it. And with that, I truly believe Kyousougiga excels at just that.
This
さあ、どうだろうね。